Hi and welcome back to part 2 on how I repaired the Retract plate on the composite Carf Eurosport wing. First things first, an apology, this is a long video, it's 40 minutes long, but there's nothing, I didn't want to make another part to it. It's just a long process in how it's repaired. I have made it as short as I can by fast forwarding some clips in the playback really fast, but it's just the process that it is. I've applied some epoxy glue that's a mixed epoxy resin mixed with micro balloons and cotton flock fibre. Cotton flock, I think it's not cotton flock fibre, my apologies. It's used as an adhesive. It's bonding the 2mm aircraft grade plywood to the original mount that's been torn out. The mount's been grinded and all the old epoxy and glue's been removed as best as it can be. So now I'm just putting this new bit of epoxy that's mixed up and just slowly piecing it all back together. It's an easy process. It's just a long time consuming process having to wait for the epoxy to dry. But I'll chime out and I'll just chime in every now and then and just explain what's going on. But as you can see, just putting epoxy on and we'll clamp it all up, we'll let it dry and we'll come back to it and we just do it step by step and we'll have a finished end result that it took a few days to do, but the end result will be a wing that is suitable for purpose. It will fly. It has flown again. This is editing and videos just weeks after I've done the job. The model at the end, you'll see it's in primer. I haven't got video of it painting it, or I did but I've lost it. But it's flown, it works, it's been recertified, and it's cheaper than buying a new wing. So over here, all I'm doing is it's clamped down to the bench, and I'm just putting as many clamps as I can get on there to really squeeze it all together and get a very good effective bond between the broken parts and the 2mm aircraft grade plywood. Once it's all clamped up, we'll just leave it dry overnight and come back to it the next day. So while the Retract plate is clamped up and drying, I've got still some resin mixed up left over. I've had all these parts pre-prepared, so I try to do it all in one glue up. That's just looks like 5mm balsa wood, just trimmed and cut to shape. It goes underneath the wing tube and just epoxies in and glues to the top of the skin. And also have another piece of balsa wood, there it is in my hand now. I'm only putting adhesive or glue on one or the bottom part of it, so it'll glue to the wing skin, but it's not gluing to the top because the Retract plate will slide in between that piece of balsa wood that I'm gluing in now and you can see the top plywood lamination that I just depressed. The Retract plate will slide in between there and glue both of them together, and that's what makes it a really strong glue joint. I've just put a bit of a balsa wood underneath to wedge it down, and I'm going to put a bit of a weight on it, and just again I'll just leave all of this to dry and glue up overnight. Everything's looking really good now. I've just tipped the wing on its side, and you can just see on the inside of that the old glue. So with the multi-tool with a blade, just gone in there, remove as much of the old epoxy glue that was there previously, and we're just getting it all ready now. We're going to glue the Retract plate in. It's nice and clean there in there now. So we're going to mix up some epoxy, glue in the Retract plate, and we're going to throw a handful of clamps at it and let it glue up again, let it dry again. Like I said, it's an easy repair. A little bit of thought process has to go into it, into step by step how to achieve the end result, but it's not that hard. The only limiting, or not limiting, but it's just the time. Just the time for the glue to epoxy glue to dry. That's the only thing. So the Retract plate's now sitting in place, and as you will see, I think I have a thing for F clamps. I don't think you can ever have enough F clamps. They're great, just absolutely great little tools to have. Different lengths, different depths, and actually you can just see there. What I've done is I've put a bit of wax paper, and there's a plywood block. Clamp it down, and if there's any epoxy that squeezes out, because you've got that wax paper as a barrier in between, nothing sticks, and it's that plywood plate spreads the load. You get a really good clamping area, good clamping surface, and there it is there, all clamped up. And we're going to move on to something else while this is drying up. So while the wing is put aside and drying, I've moved on to the skin. This wing, the skin is it's like it's a lamination with foam in the sandwich, but I'm finding that it's just delaminating. So I've tack glued it together, and I had the idea of just putting like 110 gram, 100 gram fiberglass cloth and just building it up, but as you'll see as the video goes on, that idea went out the window, and we're probably a bit heavy on the tools here, but it's quick and easy, removing all the foam, keeping just the bottom skin, and then I'll laminate like some 1mm balsa plywood, and I'll fiberglass it all down, and you'll see once that is all complete, it will be a really strong piece of skin. So I must just do a small apology here. I didn't realise for the video filming of this series of repairing the wing, I was using a digital SLR camera, and when it's in video mode it records in 10-minute blocks and it stops, and there was no audio cues, no beeps to indicate to me that it stopped recording. It just decides 10 minutes is up, we're turning off, and that was that. But here you can see removing the clamps off the wing. It has a, it's a lot stronger than tapping on it, but it's a really strong fix. And underneath there I had 20 litres of fuel, big piece of plywood to spread the load, to squash it all down. It's not, I'm not sure if it's peel ply, that was a piece of wax paper, then peel ply. We're just peeling everything off. That's a bit of masking tape just to hold the skin before I fiberglassed it together, just so it just doesn't move from where they should be, so everything's a nice tight glue join. But I think there is a video of it. We've got little fingers and a helper stepping up, but I think there is a video of it showing how strong it is. So now that we've got the retract part glued in, we've got the wing skin all made up, it's just tying up loose ends, I suppose is the best way to describe it. We've just got to fill in, we've got to make that top spar there to join the wing tube to the top of the wing skin. You won't see me cut that, but what you'll see in the next clip is, it's coming, there it is. We're cutting a root rib. That's just a jigsaw screwed to a box with a blade coming out the top. That's just again a bit of 2mm aircraft grade plywood. Just marked it out to the shape of what the root rib would be. Cutting it out, and we're going to glue it in, and then there's just, you'll see in the video that there's some space or spots where we have to glue in bits of balsa wood. There's like a rib further in on the wing that gets glued in, and then once all this stuff dries up, we'll add around a perimeter of where all that wing skin has been cut open, we'll glue in a flange so that when we glue the wing skin back on, we've got a surface area to glue it down to. So these are laminations of fiberglass that I laid up many years ago. Just laid them up on the glass table. As for what it is, how many layers, how many thicknesses, I cannot remember. But I did cut them into strips about 25mm wide, marked a center line, and all I'm doing now is just gluing them down, leaving half and half, half of it's glued to the current wing, leaving half of it exposed, as you can see. And once this is all dried, we remove the clamps, we start trimming down the wing skin, whether it's trimmed. We'll just make sure everything fits and it's a nice snug tight fit, and then we can glue this wing skin in. How good did that wing skin look sitting in place? It sat spot on. So all we're doing here is, you can see just a fraction of the plywood sticking out from underneath. We've just got to trim it away. The Retract did not sit in place, so we're just trimming it away, just getting the Retract to drop into place nicely. Yeah, so just nibble away at it and get the Retract to fall into place. That's what we're doing here. So here we're drilling the holes for the wing Retract. The wing is now attached to the fuselage, as you can see. The wheel well opening's at the top center of your screen. What I did is sat the Retract in there and manually retracted the wheel, so I know I clear the wheel well. Marked out the holes. We're drilling the holes now, and I've made up some little square wooden plates with the blind nuts. I think they're 4mm metric blind nuts. Can't remember off the top of my head. And we're going to epoxy them in. Again, it's just a mix of your fiberglass resin with some micro balloons and cotton flock. Mix it up. Put it onto the outside perimeter of the wooden blind nuts. Attach it from underneath the skin opening or the Retract opening there, and just use a bolt or the bolt that we use to hold the Retract in. Use that bolt. Put a bit of Vaseline on the thread so nothing sticks to it if there's any epoxy squeeze out, and it locates the holes and the lut. Everything's located perfectly. So that bit of commentary you've just heard was a little bit of a bum steer. Looking at the video when I'm doing the narration, I can actually see that I've already glued in the blind nuts. I don't know if you can just see them underneath. Vaseline, wax, that all does the same job. That's a 3mm bit of carbon plate there. The Retract originally had what looked like 2mm wooden bases to lift them off the actual surface of the original mount. I could have done that, but what I've decided to do is, with this 3mm plate, I've made it wide enough so it encapsulates and it clamps the broken part that was on the top of the skin just underneath of that carbon fibre. It clamps it all down now between that carbon fibre and that 2mm aircraft grade plywood underneath. And so everything's the same. I did the same, I don't think it's in this video, but it's just the same process of gluing that in the other wing. So you can just see a bit of glue squeeze out. That's a Azuto cordless driver, makes it nice and easy. And yeah, we'll keep working away here, we're nearly there. So all we're doing here is we've marked out with the, well, we can see where the original is bit on this side, but we used a bit of masking tape just as a guide, and just cutting out the opening for the Retract to drop into place there, the Retract mechanism, and a bit of room for the leg to travel. A bit of a cleanup. I'm not sure what else goes on in this video because I haven't watched it for a few days now, so we'll sit tight and watch.
Perfect.
Well, this looks like the part where we get to finally close up the wing. Mixed up again, another batch of resin with micro balloons and cotton flock. Just making some wedges, and they're just sliding underneath the skin, as you can see, onto those wooden framework. Pushing out some resin onto the framework, onto the lip, and a bit more on the framework, as you can see in the video, and we're getting them ready to put the skin down. So there it is. We've glued up. We've finished. It's beautiful. You can see on the top there's bits of residual glue and resin, but that's okay. We'll now sand it all off. Around the join there, around the whole perimeter, I'll fill it with body filler, and I think it was two or three times I had to body filler, sand it, prime it, body filler, and then prime it. I don't have any video of it, unfortunately. I think I did, but I may have lost it. I just can't find it anywhere. And there's a photo coming up of it. It's all finished in primer. I haven't painted it because the idea down the track is to actually sand back the whole airframe and give the whole thing a new fresh coat of paint, different scheme, different livery. Hope you've enjoyed the video. There it is.